Hi, I'm Gillian and welcome to the show. I offer spiritual growth for the rebel soul, guiding you through the labyrinth of your own ascension path. This show is for the rebel souls that challenge the status quo, those that crave authenticity in every single aspect of their lives, that desire to embrace their uniqueness, follow their passions, connect to their soul and live according to who they truly are, even if that means having the courage to go against the grain or the norms of society. If that's you, my spiritual soul seeker, rebel warrior, then this is the place for you. On this podcast, we speak about everything from spirituality, sexuality, conscious relationships, business, and literally everything in between. So if that's your jam, then stay tuned. And go on, be a rebel and subscribe. You know you want to. In today's episode, we're going to talk about something that comes up constantly for people that are on their intuitive and healing journey. People that are empathic, people that are natural healers, people like you. But I haven't really heard anyone talk about it. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because a client very recently came to me and had this specific problem. And the question that she asked me was, okay, if this thing is happening in my life, does that mean that it's actually meant for me? Because she came to me completely exhausted, confused as hell, and just totally doubting herself because something came up on her path that she knew she didn't want and she knew she didn't want to do, but she ended up getting roped into it anyway. And then she ended up overriding her whole intuition, thinking like, oh, maybe this is meant for me. Maybe this is part of my spiritual growth. Maybe there's something here that I need to do or I need to learn from or I need to help with. But she was like, I don't want this, but it's happening anyway. And then she was like, okay, well, if it wasn't meant for me, it wouldn't be happening, right? So that's what she was kind of like going through the motions and trying to ask me. And she'd already, before she even came to me, she was like, I've tried to meditate. I've been asking for the answers. I'm not getting any clarity here. I've been outside. I've tried to ground myself. She's like, I'm just so tired. I'm not getting any clear answers. And this is the place where so many intuitives, so many healers, so many empathic people that are on their journey get so stuck because it's really confusing. So what had happened, she'd actually taken on the care of a child that actually wasn't hers. And, this child had from what I understand, a bit of a troubled start to life. But she stepped in because she is a natural healer. She's been studying with me. She's a healer. She's a psychic. We're naturally giving people. We want to help. It's part of our DNA. So she stepped in because, one, she was very capable. And there was obviously a gap and she was able to fill it. But before that even began, before she even got to this stage, she already felt in her system. She already knew that if she'd said yes, she'd end up doing everything. And that's exactly what's happened. She knew that she would be the one holding everything. So she actually did say no, but then it happened anyway. And of course, the responsibility landed on her. Her intuition was bang on. The expectations grew. And then, I'm assuming other people stepped back and she had to obviously step up. So she's kind of in this situation where she's taken on this responsibility and this role as a caregiver, as a caretaker, which was something that she knew she didn't want to do, but she felt obligated and she felt responsible. And now she's kind of like left feeling, one, exhausted and feeling like a doormat. She's like being pushed out of not even her comfort zone necessarily, but she's just being pushed and pulled. She's just overwhelmed, right? And, this can breed a sense of resentment, right? Like this guilty feeling for feeling resentful. Like this is so common amongst healers and intuitives, all of the people that I know and that I work with. It's like almost you give and you give and you give so much that you override your own feelings and your own intuition to help save everybody. But this is the thing, you cannot save everyone. And this was something that I learned the hard way, because I got into that resentful place myself at points, right, where I was just so overgiving. And when you overgive, people overtake. And then there comes a point where you're overriding your own feelings. You're overriding your own intuition. And you will feel that in your body. Like, you will feel it instantly. But then our moral compass takes over and overrides our intuition even more, going, oh, but, I'm a good person and I'm doing this thing and, like, I can help this person. And it's like, one thing that intuitives and healers really need to understand, and again, something I have learned the hard way through my own journey, is discernment and boundaries. And you cannot help everyone. You cannot save everyone. Everyone is not your responsibility, but we kind of make it our responsibility. And this is where you can't fill anyone else's cup when yours is half empty. Like, it's so impossible. And just because someone has been put in your path that maybe needs help, there has to be an equal give and take of what that looks like. Otherwise, you will start to feel resentful and you will go into healer's burnout. Like, it's such a common thing, and it's come up with my other clients who, have been developing their psychic skills, developing their energy healing skills with me, and doing a lot of free practice, doing a lot of free sessions with people. And then they start to get this feeling, right, of like, it's no longer aligned to give my abilities away for free. And then they start to feel that as well. But then they're like, oh, but I should give it away. It's such a dichotomy for those of us that are spiritually awakened and spiritually in tune, that have these beautiful gifts and that have a higher mission to raise the consciousness of people and the planet and to help and heal. It's such a big part of something that we all have to navigate on our journey. And like, with this specific client, the question she kept on asking wasn't really like, is this too much for me? She wasn't asking that question. She was actually asking, and this is why she came to me, was I meant to do this? I know I wanted to say no, because I know it didn't feel like this is something I wanted to do, but because I ended up being landed with this situation and looking after this child, that must mean that because it was presented to me and I'm doing it, that it was meant for me. Like, this must be part of my spiritual path. But I just want you to know that something happening in your life doesn't automatically mean that it's aligned. In fact, a lot of the time, it is not aligned. Because, like, our life doesn't just give us soul assignments. It gives us tests. It repeats patterns. It gives us lessons around, in this case, boundaries and discernment. It gives us invitations that we are allowed to say no to. We are allowed to decline for our own growth, our own spiritual growth within ourselves. Because again, especially if you're a healer or an empath, because when you are so loving, so capable, like so emotionally available like you are, life and people can end up using you unless you have good boundaries. And, this particular example, this wasn't like cosmic destiny that this child was brought into her life and she was meant to, take him on and save him and do all these things. That actually wasn't part of her destiny. It was just human pattern. And the reason that she couldn't tap into it, that her intuition felt unclear, because when you are such a giving, generous, beautiful person, if something involves something that is emotionally vulnerable, like a vulnerable child, for example, if there's some level of like moral pressure, if there's family dynamics at play, if there's this sense of duty or responsibility or guilt, or, that you can help someone that's in a less favorable position than you, it can be really difficult for your intuition to come through, or it gets blurred. Because this is the thing, right? Her intuition already came through at the start. She already knew what would happen if she said yes, and she had already said no, but somehow it still landed on her doorstep, because again, her boundaries were overrode and she was not sticking to her boundaries, right? So this is when then she started to question it, right? And when we have such an emotional or moral attachment to something, to the situation, to the outcome, when there's also other people's opinions involved and other people's emotions involved that could be close to us, our intuition doesn't always come through as a clear yes or no, but it will come through in our body. And this is why I said to her, I was like, what are you feeling? Tell me about your feelings. Describe your feelings to me, right? Because your intuition might not come through as a clear, like, yes, no, you're not meant to do this. This is not meant for you, as like a kind of a channeled conversation, but it will show in your body. And it's going to show up as a level of fatigue. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel heavy about the situation. You might feel, again, resentment, trapped, feeling dread, feeling like walked over. All of these things are heavy. They're low vibration. And that is your body. That's your nervous system. That's your energy field literally telling you this is not for you. This is not aligned. But what can happen is a lot of intuitive people dismiss those signals because we are so taught to override our feelings, right? There are so many people in this world that just go through life not feeling good, but that's all they know because they were never taught that feelings are messengers. And this particular client is very, very clairsentient. So one of her strongest intuitive abilities is through her felt sense, through physical sensation, through emotions, through feelings, as well as her claircognizance. So again, she just knows things. And those two can be harder to interpret in terms of our psychic abilities rather than being clairvoyant, which is like you're seeing images, you're seeing pictures to interpret, or hearing information come through like a dialogue. Those can be, I won't say easier, but they can be more tangible to interpret as information that you're receiving intuitively and psychically versus through our feelings, because a lot of the times we don't feel good because we're actually taking on so much stuff, and just having the knowings. They can be some of the more challenging gifts to trust. And this was the case, right? Because we feel so much every day, especially as an intuitive person, sometimes those signals, those feelings of heaviness and dread and resentment, they don't feel like say, quote unquote, spiritual enough. But it is all information, right? Exhaustion, that's information. Resentment, that is information. Feeling erased, that is information. So her intuition was not unclear at all. It was just being completely overridden. So I want to give you just some tangible ways, if you are in a situation like this, right? Or if there's something that's you've been questioning, is this meant for me? Is it not? Is it on my path because I meant to explore this? I don't feel like it's for me, but then it gets overridden. Whatever that looks like for you, just know that, firstly, growth can be uncomfortable, right? So I'm not saying if something is aligned for you, you're not going to feel a level of uncomfortableness, because when you're expanding, when you're growing, it's like growing pains, right? They can feel uncomfortable. But something that is aligned for you, but still challenging, there's usually an essence to it, right? It can feel like, okay, this is hard, but there's a truth underneath this. For example, like if I'm doing something new in my business, let's say, if I'm launching a bigger, better program, let's say, that's going to take more from me, that's more expansive for me, that's going to make me hold more things. That is going to be hard because it's something new and it's expanding my capacity, but underneath it, I know there's a truth to it. I know that this is what I'm meant to be doing. I know that this growth is going to be good for me. It could be scary, but I know underneath that, the essence of truth and honesty and alignment of this is the route that I'm meant to go. This is an expansion for my growth is the resonance that's actually underneath it. And it could be something like there's a nervousness to it, right? But again, there's a sense of purpose. All of this stuff means that it's aligned. Sometimes, when we think something is aligned, we're thinking, oh my God, it's going to be like, everything's going to be easy and everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows. And it's not the case, because again, growth and expansion can feel uncomfortable because you're stepping into newer, higher realms of something that you have never done before. Expansion, growth, and again, I liken it to growing pains, because it's exactly that. When a kid's growing, when they're getting new teeth in, their bones hurt, their teeth hurt, because their gums hurt, even because newness is coming. It's exactly the same for us. So this is where, when you can tune into the subtleties of energy and the subtleties of how your intuition works with you, you will start to recognize these things of when something is truly aligned for you and when it isn't. Something else that you can start to feel if something is aligned for you, you start to feel more like yourself over time. You're not convincing yourself to do this thing or be in this thing. Again, those are they're subtle, but they're definitely showing you where something is aligned. And then, of course, if you have some level of responsibility, because this is really what it's about, right? It's having a responsibility, because responsibility, again, is growth. With my business, I have a level of responsibility. I want to put out a bigger, better program that's going to take more of me, and it's going to hold people in bigger transformation. That's a responsibility, right? To me, my energy, and also to my clients. But where you've taken on a responsibility that is not aligned for you, you're going to feel depleted. You're going to have this feeling of dread, before, during, after, when you wake up. You're going to feel a sense of feeling smaller, or maybe even invisible. You're going to be needing to justify maybe why you're still there. Maybe you're asking everyone else what you need to do because, again, you're not trusting your no. And it's really important. One thing I will say is okay, tune into the energy of saying yes to this thing. How does that feel? How does that feel in your body? Does that feel expansive? Does it feel exciting? And then tune into the no of saying no to this thing. How does that feel? Does that feel contracted? Does it feel heavy? Does it feel tense? And then imagine yourself 1 month from now, when you've said yes to this thing, that yes to taking on this responsibility. How do you feel? Do you feel great? Do you feel aligned? Do you feel happy? Do you feel more like you? Or do you feel tense and anxious? Do you feel downtrodden? Do you feel hopeless? These are your telltale signs if something is for you or if something is not for you. Again, remember, just because something is showing up on your path does not mean it is for you. There's a myriad of things that this could be. Because if something was truly aligned in a soul level way, you wouldn't feel alone just carrying this responsibility. You would have things like support show up. You would have potentially a shared responsibility. Your system wouldn't be in constant survival mode. And this is where, again, a lot of intuitives, a lot of empaths, a lot of healers, this is where you can get stuck on your path because you are naturally empathic, because you're the strong one, the caring one, the one that people always go to, the one that has the answers, the problem solver, the person that can see the things that the other people cannot see. You are that person. And situations like this, they don't just test your capacity, they're testing your whole identity. Your identity as a healer, as a carer, as an empath, as an intuitive, as a light worker, as a light leader. Not just from this life, but from other lifetimes, because you have lived many lifetimes in these roles. And throughout all of these incarnations, throughout the things you've experienced, you've learned that you have to sacrifice yourself to help other people, to be loved or to give love or to feel love. That you're only worthy when you're being useful, or you're being good enough, or you're being needed. And that if you say no to someone, then you're doing like the worst thing in the world. If you say no to someone, then you are abandoning someone in need. And that feeling, because again, you're intuitive, you can feel someone else's feelings if you say no to them and they feel a kind of way about it. You feel that. And sometimes that feeling is the worst. And then you've just got this like overriding like martyr complex around, I gotta save everyone. Like if I don't step in, who else will? You know, just because you can doesn't mean that you have to. And I know this is really hard because I've been in many, many situations like this myself, where I feel like, oh, well, I can help this person. They're in need. And you get so burned out because you're giving and giving and giving and you're getting nothing in return. It doesn't mean that it's meant for you. What you're meant to learn is friggin' discernment and boundaries around what you can give without burning out and what you cannot. And this is where you have to learn to listen to yourself. Because when something is not aligned for you, but someone else actually like wants you or needs you, it creates like this internal war in yourself because your intuition is going, oh my God, this is too much, like, burnout. But the conditioning, the beliefs that you have are saying, oh, but you're the one that can handle it. This is so common. And this is why we take on so much as healers, as intuitives. We take on everyone else's shit. We take on everyone else's problems. You take on everyone else's pain. I have done that too. But that is not your intuition. That is your, let's say your ego, right? That's your ego. That's your savior pattern. That is the wounding that you have or the lessons that you have to learn to fill up your own cup before you fill up anyone else's. Because when I explained all of this to my client, I was like, you were questioning your path, you were questioning your intuition, but your intuition never failed you. Like, you did listen to it, but then your boundary wasn't honored by the people around you and by yourself, firstly. Because this isn't about whether you were meant to do this thing forever and take on this responsibility. It's really just about recognizing for you when something noble, let's say, something that you've done that was noble, has become unsustainable for you. You know, because again, stepping in temporarily doesn't mean signing your life away. Like, helping someone doesn't mean being the sole container for it. And just because you have love to share and you have love to give, it doesn't mean that you're overriding your own self, your own needs for the sake of someone else. You know, because you start to feel this like exhaustion and resentment, that's no kind of moral failure. That was her alarm shouting, boundary alert, like, overstepped your boundaries. Your boundaries have been caved in. Invasion. And because she's so sensitive energetically, she can feel things so deeply. Again, being clairsentient, you feel things impeccably deeply, and it can be very difficult for you to like almost not merge with the pain and the suffering of the people around you. But this is where you have to really learn better boundaries. Like, just imagine your being, your vessel, as like this castle, right? As this temple. You're going to have guards around it, right? You're going to have a moat or guards or, you know, or a big hill. So, you know, people can't really easily access and get in and break into your castle. Because, you know, your castle's full of precious diamonds and precious gold and, you know, all these things. You don't want anyone just to invade your home, your boundaries, and that's really your energetic field. So again, it's just having stronger boundaries, especially if you're a clairsentient, especially if you're any kind of energy healer, any kind of intuitive, any kind of empath. It's so key to be able to discern what is yours and what is not yours. It is so key to ground yourself, clear yourself every day, so you are not merging with the energy and the information and the emotions of everybody that is physically around you. So if you've been listening to this and you are also in something that you didn't really choose, or maybe you chose like under pressure, then I just want you to know that you are so allowed to renegotiate your role in whatever that is. You are so allowed to say, this doesn't work for me anymore. This needs to change. You are so allowed to ask for help. You're allowed to involve external support, professional support. You're allowed to say, like, I can help, but I can't do this, or I can't do this, or I can't do this alone. You're allowed to say, this is just not sustainable for me anymore. You are allowed to take back your energy, take back your power, and set boundaries that are aligned for you. So instead of asking, is this meant for me? It's on my path, so therefore it must be for me, even though it's something I don't want. You just ask yourself, okay, what part of me keeps overriding myself here? What is that part of me that keeps overriding what I know to be true, my own intuition, what's right for me? Why do I keep overriding that for other people? And then where am I confusing responsibility with obligation? Because you're not obligated to do anything. Just because you can remember doesn't mean that you should. And doesn't mean that it's part of your path. And ask yourself, like, what would support look like? Like, for that situation, for yourself. Because if something is continually draining you, it keeps shrinking you, it keeps exhausting you, that is not a sign for you to surrender more. That is not a sign that this is meant to be on your path. It's a sign to reclaim your energy, reclaim your authority, especially if you are a healer, especially if you are energetically sensitive. Because your job is definitely not to save everyone. Your job is to stay intact. And sometimes, honestly, the most spiritual thing you can do is to say no. Like, or this needs to change. Which I know is really difficult for those of us that have a big heart, that want to help. But again, you cannot help. You cannot actually align to the things that are meant for you on your path if you are accepting things that are not actually aligned for you on your path. Because again, part of your path is learning these lessons around boundaries, around discernment, around what's right for you, what's not right for you. The more that you can hone this skill, the more that you will start to attract the things that are truly aligned for you. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I'm sending you so much love. Until the next time.